For now, we turn to CBSN political contributor Zeke Miller. Okay, Zeke, in hindsight, if President Obama had spoken publicly about the Russian hacking, wouldn't we now be discussing how the Obama administration was election meddling?
Potentially, and that was certainly one of the things that the Obama team was considering at the time. Hindsight is 2020 here. They were trying to weigh, sort of the least of two bad options, either coming out publicly and saying that Russia was meddling in the election and being accused of using intelligence and the power of and the Oval Office, in fact, to try to potentially influence the outcome of an election, or do what they did, which is essentially stay silent and then wait until after the election is over, and then in this case have a president follow on who felt that any question of the Russia probe was somehow undermining his legitimacy, and that got us to this muddled situation right now. So there really was no good option for the Obama team, but now, sort of in hindsight, for them, it's giving now President Trump a bit of ammunition.
So how do you think this new information, Zeke, will impact the Russia investigation? President Trump seems to be acknowledging that Vladimir Putin helped him win, something that he's denied for months.
Yeah, it was a really interesting bit of confirmation, sort of verbal jujitsu from the president there. He's not exactly buying the premise of the intelligence assessment. It took him until January to even to acknowledge what had become by that point the obvious, that Russia had hacked the Democratic National Committee and John Podesta's emails. At least that had become apparent to all the unanimous consensus of the U.S. intelligence community. So for the president, for somebody who's taken so long here, it's very hard for them to turn around and then say, oh, well, President Obama knew about this and didn't do anything. It's a very smart political move, but it's very difficult for him to actually execute on that, as long as he's trying to sort of keep one foot in both camps, being saying that Russia didn't try to help him win and that effort had no impact, and then at the same time trying to attack the Obama administration. He kind of has to choose, and at this point, given where the Russia investigation is, attacking the Obama administration might be the easy solution.
And we know, Zeke, that President Trump is actually going to come face to face with Vladimir Putin at the G20 summit next month. What do you think we can expect from that?
That it really is a big wild card. They haven't met face to face. They really haven't spoken much at all since he won the White House. It could be a very interesting. Certainly, if we can get cameras on that, if we can see that interaction, could be will be a very interesting historical moment. But at the same time, how President Trump, who has tried to develop closer relationships with Vladimir Putin and the Russian government. He's spoken openly about that. But things have changed both in Syria and domestically for the president here with the Russia investigation. The sort of tone the president adopts, the White House officials telling me they're still trying to figure that out. They're not entirely sure just how they want to approach Putin. They're trying to develop a strategy for that.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to watch. Meanwhile, we know members of the House Intelligence Committee met with Robert Mueller on Tuesday. Any sense, Zeke, as to what they discussed?
They're trying to deconflict the two investigations, or actually there are three with the House as well. But they're making sure that they're not doubling up on witnesses, or that particularly the congressional investigation doesn't get in the way or undermine somehow Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation. They're sort of deferring to the Special Counsel right now. So they're just trying to make sure that they're not overlapping on witnesses, that somehow the congressional investigation doesn't uncover documents or tip off somebody who Robert Mueller is trying to somehow otherwise sort of spend more time surveilling. That whatever they do, they don't get in each other's way.
I want to turn to health care quickly. The Congressional Budget Office is expected to release the Senate analysis of the health care bill as early as Monday. How influential do you think this report will be, and how do you think this could impact who supports it?
Well, right now, with the 5 Republicans saying they won't support the bill in its current form in the Senate, you can sort of argue the CBO score is irrelevant. That said, between now and next week, fully expect some changes, some tinkering around the edges to try to win at least some of those conservative members back on board. It's hard to see how Heller gets back on board, given sort of the public beating he's taking right now. But we'll see what changes Mitch McConnell and the rest of the Senate Republicans and the president are going to try to make to win over the 50 votes they need to get something through the Senate under these reconciliation rules. But if the bill does become back in play, if there is a credible chance of it passing, certainly if that CBO score comes out and if it looks anything like the House CBO score, you're going to start seeing Republicans getting very worried about taking a very challenging vote with their majority on the line next year.
You mentioned Senator Dean Heller, one of the 5 Republicans. He's from Nevada, who's coming out against the bill. We know Mitch McConnell wants to see a vote on this next week. Is that going to happen?
It's an open question. Some people around McConnell are saying he's going to bring the vote even if he doesn't think it will pass, just because he wants to get it off his plate. He wants to say, we worked on this for the last 7 years, and here's the bill, and it either is going to pass or it's not going to pass, and then now it's time to move on to tax reform. That said, the White House and certainly the House, they want to get this done. It's very important to Republican voters. This has been the central campaign promise for them through, for 7 years. They don't want this to go away maybe the same way that Mitch McConnell does. So in that case, even if they might pull that vote or somehow delay it to allow more time to work on it, in any event, it's not clear how waiting any longer will change the facts on the ground. Republicans have been working at this for months, years, in fact, and they haven't really gotten any sort of consensus. This is a very challenging issue, and if you look at the interests of like the Ted Cruz's and of the world, and the Mike Lee's of the world, and the Dean Hellers of the world, will probably never ever align, and that will be meaning even if they do bring this up to a vote or they delay it, there's really no chance. It's hard to see a successful vote right now.
And Zeke, you were at yesterday's White House press briefing. Cameras were not allowed. Some folks used court sketches type images instead. What was the mood in the room, and how long do you think these closed sessions are going to go on?
It's actually kind of subdued. The White House does, has argued that without cameras there, there's maybe a little bit less of a showmanship or performance art, and sometimes that does actually bear out. What I know myself and other reporters have made clear that is that it's very important for the White House to be seen answering questions and being publicly accountable to reporters, both for citizens trying to understand what their government is doing, but also it's an important symbol to send about the role of the free press in the United States around the world. And so the White House says they're going to have some sort of mix there, depending on how that mix works out. If it's going to be more off camera than on camera, there will certainly be a continued bubbling up of tensions, but hopefully they'll reverse course on that and do at least more of these on camera.
Okay, Zeke Miller, thank you for joining us this weekend, Zeke.
Thanks for having me.